Internet horror is in a weird state right now. Arguably, it's more popular than ever, with aspects of it seeping into popular, meme culture. I think I need to go lie down. However, it also seems to be in a pretty terrible position right now, where it feels as if everything is so overplayed and cliche. It's just disappointing to me. When I see the great potential so many works have, potential that is thrown away so quickly, it just sucks. Arguably, internet horror started with the iconic spooky chain emails of the 90s and 2000s. These were essentially just threats you'd receive in your inbox from like ghosts and shit. You could avoid the problem and even sometimes earn good luck if you shared these emails with a set number of people. These emails were of course reposted to forums online, arguably spawning the creepypasta. The first actual one is generally considered to be Ted the Caver. It's about a lad in a cave and he throws a dog down there too. Mental. Creepypasta as we know it now is different, which is why I want to talk about an instrumental piece of online horror, which I think is in many ways the foundation of so much of what we see today. A Stratford Cash college student is travelling around, looking for games for the N64 he was recently gifted, stopping at yard sales to pick up games for cheap, eventually reaching one run by an old man. The man was seemingly a bit off and felt a bit unnerving. After being asked if he had any games, he brought out a scuffed-looking copy of Majora's Mask and gave it for free. This one moment would cause a sequence of events that led to a post on X, the paranormal word of 4chan. Okay, X, I need your help with this. This is not copypasta. This is a long read, but I feel like my safety or well-being could very well depend on this. This is video game related, specifically Majora's Mask. And this is the creepiest shit that has ever happened to me in my entire life. The haunted cartridge is not the only foundational piece of online horror. Many would point to something like Marble Hornets. However, when I think about web horror in specific, the ideas, the imagery, the presentation, the believability, it all leads back to this. The posts were made by a man named Deducible, who had finally had enough of his Majora's Mask copy. I'm sure you're all familiar with what happened. As he was leaving the garage sale, the old man said something that sounded like, "Goodbye, Ben." Deducible assumes he just misheard until booting up the game and finding a pre-existing save file called Ben. Despite the shoddy nature of the cartridge, it ran fine, bar for one little hiccup. Characters in the game would refer to Link as Ben, eventually annoying Deducible to the point that he deleted Ben's file. Then, instead, they'd call Link nothing, just a blank space. Deducible needed some more time and therefore goes to perform what's called the 4th day glitch, which he successfully pulls off. Only, this little action essentially wakes up the ghost. The haunting begins as an Elegy of Emptiness statue stalks Link throughout the town and terrorizes Deducible, cryptically communicating with him, toying with him, showing up in his dreams, affecting his mental health. He documents the haunting through text posts and, most importantly, videos. The first video, day4.wmv, is still just as unnerving. Deducible describes the whole atmosphere making him tear up, and that happens to me too. It's not sadness, but this indescribable feeling. This wasn't just a ghost story, this was happening in real time. The game continues to mess with him, eventually revealing that Ben drowned. By the end, Deducible's mental state had completely degraded. He takes his semester off and goes home, leaving the final video with his roommate, who makes another 4chan post detailing all of this, attaching the final video. For many, this is where the haunted cartridge ends. Deducible gets absolutely wrecked by a dead kid in a spooky video game and goes home, documenting everything. However, this isn't where it ended. One last post was uploaded reading, "Honesty is the best policy," with an attachment, thetruth.rtf. Here we get the truth from Deducible, his notes he's been taking since the very start, telling us that Ben blocked his previous attempts to tell the truth, having to rely on coded messaging. But how? The part most worth noting is how after recording the first video, his computer started acting up, eventually opening a link that just said, "Hi," and a link to Cleverbot. This is really why the haunted cartridge is so influential, so important. Ben isn't just a ghost, he's a spirit trapped in the wires. Ben has been editing all the summaries, removing references to himself being outside the game, and of something called the Moon Children, ending it off with a warning not to download anything in relation to his videos, to keep away. Ben isn't just a ghost in the machine, he's a ghost of the internet, a digital spirit, one who hid not only information but entire videos. Deducible never had a roommate. Ben has spread. You downloaded a tampered document. Deducible refers to it as a TXT file, but what we got is an RTF. It also doesn't sound like him, does it? Lastly, thank you for taking the time to open this and open yourselves up to me by hearing my story. Despite maybe not believing me, you didn't have to do that. Really, you shouldn't have. For many people, this is where the haunted cartridge ends. Ben is released out into the internet, a spectre embedded deep within the web. This is not where it ends. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this one story, but it is in every way, good and bad, the quintessential digital horror. 108 minutes after the Truth.rtf, another video is released, seemingly marking the end. Then, after the Deducible YouTube channel's recent activity page started lighting up, people recognized ciphers. When decoded, it had a few hidden messages. .net is your only clue. The final cipher led to an old tech help forum, with one of the answers to the question being, you shouldn't have done that. This was a forum, seemingly for a cult, one obsessed with the idea of ascension. The website featured their theories, messages from members, and even a plan to commit a mass shooting. The admin of the website was called Drowned, and hovering over his avatar reveals you again. A doomsday cult centered around the moon. They're the Moon Children. The contact page was said to be broken, but by typing things at the end of the URL, contact pages for individual members could be found. Like Ben. Emails, accounts, everything. Ben was a cult member, and his contact page had a countdown to the 4th day. As that timer ticked down, during the final hour, people who were emailing a member named Ilfrit were met with, hang on, someone keeps knocking at my door. As on the main website, a song called Matt's Final Hours plays. Now, you remember video responses? It's okay if you don't, but essentially you could respond to YouTube videos with another video, similar to commenting. Replies with different songs would affect the original website. This is what we call an ARG, or alternate reality game, something I'm sure we're all familiar with. What you have to understand is that what might seem tropey now was brand new, or at least not overdone when this was going on. Through websites, codes, emails and ciphers, more and more was being unearthed until it stopped. For many, this is where it ends, but as I'm sure you're expecting by now, it didn't end there. Stepping forward, back into the limelight, only to stumble and fall. When I say Ben Drowned is the quintessential piece of online horror, I also mean that in the absolute worst way possible. While the haunted cartridge and Moon Children were strange, eerie, disturbing, yet just believable enough, Awakening, the final act, sucks. Awakening, just like every other part, was very ahead of its time. However, this time, it was in the literal shittiest way that could manifest. Ahead of the curve, yet still sucks ass. Awakening combines everything. Freaky websites, gameplay footage, and now real live action. It starts off so promising, with genuinely creepy and eerie monsters in this large, surreal, empty hotel. But, you know, it eventually shits itself. It's written like a fucking anime. Lore is prioritized over scares, over spooks, over plausibility. It is all lore. So much information, so much footage, epic fights and stupid cheesy dialogue. It isn't really even horror anymore. Not at all. Countless comments noting that it's just shown in fanfiction of the original haunted cartridge. Some of it is cool, interesting, visually striking to watch my favorite game of all time get twisted and contorted like this. But it isn't scary. It isn't even particularly well written. What happened to the unnerving ghosts that brought you to tears, and the grimy underbelly of the internet shown with the Moon Children? This is of course not even mentioning the fact that it relies heavily on AI generated and manipulated imagery, with every single spooky face being from a bot. Even the music you hear is just a stupid AI anime using a classic piece of internet horror as a body. The 4th day glitch is finally activated once again. A new day begins, and it ends. Fucking credits roll. Ten years after it started, my favourite online horror story was revived only to be this waste of time. This is internet horror now. Digital horror, liminal spaces, no worries about immersion or plausibility, cheap shortcuts that miss the point of the works they were inspired by. A post was made to X on 4chan, a simple little creepypasta. Something so simple yet multi-layered. Of course, I'm talking about this now iconic image. It used people's newfound fascination with the empty yet familiar liminal spaces, and, at least I think, the unnerving feeling surrounding Source Engine games. When I first saw this image, I genuinely got reminded of old Gmod offices. The no clipping out of bounds bit reminded me of flying out to explore the 3D skyboxes. What's so great about it is what we don't know, which is much of anything at all. All we know is that it's huge, so huge that it is functionally infinite for anyone trying to traverse it, and that something might be in there. That is it. So what did the Backrooms become? The SCP Foundation is an open collaborative writing project that is supposed to be like a shadowy government foundation that houses the supernatural, but due to the nature of how open it is, has so much unbelievable lore and silly creatures that it has become a complete parody of itself. The Backrooms is the exact same way. It is no longer miles of the same eerie thing, the amalgamation of distant memories and discomforts around cheap monotonous corporate office architecture and interior design, buzzing fluorescent lights and a sickly yellow hue. It is everything. It is multiple levels filled with monsters that are fully explained to us. Whatever neat ideas might be found within almost don't matter because this simple yet effective post is not the place to do this. To add unending lore and explanations. Because obviously, fear of the unknown is the strongest kind. When we know something, it isn't really scary anymore. I call this the Resident Evil effect, where over time, media seen as creepy and unnerving, slowly, or rapidly actually, gets hit with just an embarrassing amount of rule of cool. I get it. Stoic soldiers with big guns and cool masks in horrific situations are great. Resident Evil does it, Fear does it, and of course, the SCP Foundation and the Backrooms do it too. Fuck even me! That's a weird sentence. I only realised that I paused at a strange point in editing, so okay, let me try that one again. Fuck even. In a project I've been working on for years, the same thing happens. But it's just different when it's being slapped onto something like this. Liminal space horror in general is a great case study in missing the point. Why they're unnerving isn't because there might be a monster, but more the uncanny familiarity. It's like a place plucked directly out of our memories, with all the weird distortions and inaccuracies of human reminiscence. You probably remember key details about a location, but not the people. Hazy memories have been exploited by online horror since the very beginning. And where do you get the haziest? From your childhood, of course. Hell, the Haunted cartridge is literally about that, the distortion of something from your childhood. This, of course, also had some shit tied to it, especially back then, where people would try to make anything for kids all dark and fucked up and hashtag childhood ruined. Like how, what if Pokemon was actually just a dream? Or if Adventure Time was just a dream? Or if fucking Rugrats was just in her head? Of course, there's always the classic lost episode creepypasta, where the narrator finds a secret dark episode of a beloved show never before seen. The concept has potential, but has literally never been realised, as every single lost episode story went like this. Guys, okay, so I'm in danger writing this. So I recently returned home after going to an awesome convention with my bestie, XX Bramblestar XX. Not a real name, guys. And I got a DVD collection while there. You see, I'm a big fan of Italia, much like everyone else. I just think they're so kawaii. Sorry if I spelt that wrong. And I'm a big Fujoshi, but when I came home from the convention, I put it in my DVD and waited for its start. When I did, it was like normal DVD menu, but when select episode, huh? What this? They're an episode I never heard. It called Italia but Scary. Brackets do not watch, brackets very scary, brackets will die of C, brackets 410,757,864,530 dead cops. I was surprised, but didn't think much of it. Must be just a weird joke, I laughed to myself. Plus, I was just excited to see more Italia. Wow, an episode I didn't know about. How cool. I turned on the episode. I wish I hadn't. For one frame, it flashed a spooky picture that said 666. I just thought my TV was doing the bug. It was not. When episode start, I was shocked to see was Japan, but he was dyed and blooded everywhere. America come up and be like, you're right, man. But he wasn't. He rise up from ground and had blood eyes, hyper realistic, so realistic I could really feel him coming inside me. He turned to TV and say, you're next. I respond and say, what? Forgetting that you can't talk to TV. Sorry, I'm such a baka. He reach out TV and start fly at me. Oh my god heavens. I think myself. I run upstairs and start typing this post. But want to know the scariest part? I was me, but you was me, and you became skeleton and wrote this. Does that track? Do you guys get that reference?
Okay, so I'm writing actually. This isn't even editing me, this is writing me. And I've just checked to to make sure that that reference I just made was coherent and not something I just made up. It's from a Jello Apocalypse video from 8 years ago. Dude, fuck. It's the video. Welcome to fanfiction.net.
So, not to veer too off topic, but when I think about the best example of this liminal space childhood horror, I think of one example after the break.
Holy shit. You made it to the fucking intermission. Congratulations. This is where I do my shit, like tell you to go follow me on Twitter. Also, look at all this fan art. If you want your fan art featured, either send it to me on Twitter or send it to the fan art channel on the server, something you were about to hear a little bit about.
Has this ever happened to you?
Oh god, oh me, I'm just ever so lonely. Oh no, I don't have any friends.
That's great. Then you need to join the Guys Home for Aspiring Vampires server. Wow! It has such great features, such as the ability to send messages, and also images, video, and sound. Call your friends. Who needs a phone when you have the Guys Home for Aspiring Vampires community server? Oh my god! Finally, the Home for Aspiring Vampires is now a real place that you can go to. And, I don't know, be a vampire. I guess I'm so tired. We have such great features, like amazing emotes and fun commands. Carl, show me Leon Kennedy falling down, please. Carl, behead my father.
What?
So make sure that you leave your money in my pocket and join the Guys Home for Aspiring. Oh my god, my life is over!
Five Nights at Freddy's 1. The original game, despite the popularity, is really underappreciated for what it did. Sure, the animatronics are spooky or whatever, they're unnerving, kinda silly, or sexy as fuck. Please don't clip that. But for me, what makes FNAF is the setting. The Freddy's in which you spend said 5 nights. It's fucking awesome. I think it's the perfect encapsulation of this childish location horror. Fazbear's Pizzeria is a dirty, grimy place. It looks cold and off-putting, but to a child, it's a world to get lost in. You're immersed in the world of Freddy and his hot, sexy pirate friends. Please do not clip that, please. Seriously though, it's so interesting to me, the suspension of disbelief in a childish mind. It's like we're being forced to confront the reality of the place. And there's a discomfort in the dissonance between the fun world of Freddy the restaurant tries to sell kids on, and the real world. A world in which anything can happen. That isn't what FNAF is anymore though. Gone are the days of a simply effective ghost story, a confrontation with childhood innocence and our own crushing reality. The fact that children are not safe even in their favourite place. Weirdly, Five Nights at Freddy's made me think about something. I was drawn to wonder that play places I visited as a child were just as shoddy, grimy and unnerving, and I just didn't realise. Five Nights at Freddy's sister location is a game in which Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator is a game about Ultimate Custom Night is a game where something is going on. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is, what the fuck? Who? I love the original trilogy for all the restraint they showed. A straight up cryptic ghost story to get invested in. It was great, but like everything else so far, it just couldn't resist jumping the shark. Hello, Fonzie. You know, the other interesting thing the original trilogy did was have you interact with most of it behind a low quality screen, a monitor hooked up to subpar cameras. This is great. The noise is so important. Old or outdated displays can add so much to a dark image. Is that a figure or just static? Let's continue on the childhood train with this little video game. Mario 64 is a personal favourite of mine, and I gotta be honest, I was extremely hooked by the Mario 64 Iceberg, a collection of information and conspiracies about the game, popularised by Mishkaz's 5 million view video covering it, who has also seen my videos, so you know, no big deal. The core concept was that hidden somewhere in Mario 64's original run was a feature that caused the game to change. Adaptive games aren't just in the realm of speculation. The beloved classic Resident Evil 4 has a difficulty that will adapt to you. Depending on how you do, enemy AI, damage, and aggression will change. This was a bit different though, and it's all about hazy memories. The Mario 64 Iceberg tells you that no, you didn't misremember that level. You didn't just make up the fact that Bob on Battlefield was during a sunset. You definitely did not make up the fact that you swear you saw something hidden in the castle waiting to be found. A little surprise just for you in your personalized copy. Whether it's a rogue AI or something more sinister, I love every bit of this. The idea that something like this was just sitting there dormant in your childhood game, waiting. The only way to confirm would be to drag out your original copy and console and try it for yourself. However, like everything great, eventually it happened. The lore people came in and documented everything. This group writing project had once again turned from fantastic horror to just the SCP Foundation, but with Yoshi.
I'm a fucking animal.
Of course, there was always that other problem. You know the one, in which it is incredibly difficult to take seriously because of one little thing. Oh, look who it is! You cannot make fucking Wario scary. He's a bastard who eats garlic and then farts. That spooky face was used for that time he went on a rant about how much he hated Indianapolis and Chicago. I still don't know why he did that. This is hilarious in every single way. You cannot take it seriously. Like fucking hell. What a way to ruin the scares, man. So much potential, so much passion, so much artistry just fizzling out. Okay, we can talk about it now.
How to make analog horror. First things first, you gotta look the part. That's right, it's time to create a tape effect. Make sure it looks nothing like a real tape. Fuck it, throw on some film grain. Just put any kind of old looking distortion on there. Perfect. Make sure you're warning about something. The genre is supposed to look like news or some other kind of informational material, but you don't have the budget for that, so format it in a way that no tape would ever actually look, and make it more akin to a Windows Movie Maker slideshow that you slapped a filter on. Perfect. Make sure to fill it with a bunch of faces so stupid looking that they almost feel scientifically engineered to be unscary. Done?
Good boy. I'm obviously being a bit facetious, but I do have a bone to pick with the Mandela catalogue for unintentionally ruining the genre. Local 58 was so good and stuff. What the fuck is this? Say what you want about the Mandela catalogue. I think it's fine, but it basically became the blueprint for the genre, which meant it would eventually crash into urban spook. Urban spook is awful in every way. It is unbelievably not scary. It is comically not scary. The story doesn't make any fucking sense either. This isn't what a tape looks like. Who fucking made this? This isn't how police information is formatted. It's reveling in its own depravity, but not in a fun way, just in a really embarrassing, edgy 13-year-old's idea of dark kind of way. The descriptions of violence are so over the top that they're just fucking comical. Urban spook would be a comedy if it wasn't for one singular episode. Okay, I know that this sounds bad, but it is genuinely eye-roll worthy when they really quickly ran out of spooks, so they had to kill a fucking baby. Of course, there is the infamous episode which used some of the most vile shit for shock value. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do not mind what you depict in media. Go nuts. You have to understand what you're doing. You have to be tactful, or at the very least be prepared for criticism. This is pretty bad though. Unbearably edgy and over the top. It sucks, it is dumb, it is insensitive. I know that I've complained a lot, but I've had some time to think. Things were not perfect back then. Far from it. Sure, look, I love the Haunted cartridge, but that was an exception, not the rule. Just like today, every great idea will be replicated over and over until it degraded completely. If the Haunted cartridge is, say, Local 58 or even the Mandela catalogue, then Urban Spook is fucking Sonic.exe. To tie it back to something I said earlier, people try to turn everything darker than it needs to be. This goes for the Song of Healing from Majora's Mask. Lots of people try to read something more sinister into it. It isn't beautiful because it's trying to hide something, it's beautiful because it just is. Sure, the song cannot close wounds, it cannot cure the sick, but it can ease the mind, the soul. It gives them a brief break from the chaos to just think. Think about what they want and need, and to pass it on to someone else so they can die peacefully, so they can pass on. In some sense then, the song heard in Been Drowned, the reverse song of healing, is holding me back. I tied everything in this video back to it, used it as an anchor point, ahead of its time for spooky games and ARGs, and even its unfortunate downfall, all mirroring what was soon to happen with online horror in general. But now, it's gone. I need to look past it, to look forward, with no bend to predict the future with. Instead, I need to look at the future, as online horror could very easily pick itself back up. In fact, it just might. Digital horror is the future, the aesthetics of the 2000s and the new web, slowly catching up to the point Ben first started. Lacey's game ruined me. It was extremely effective, but Your mileage may vary. I'm in a unique position where the subject matter is deeply personal to me, and the whole thing caused me to be sick. 10 out of 10 would dig up old traumatic memories again. I've been Kai from Kai's Home for Aspiring Vampires. Slán, agus bin tat na Oíche Shamhna.
Indianapolis? Oh, I hate Indianapolis. Only place I hate more than Indianapolis? Chicago.